Number 30 Broad Street, 1022. 13 Sergeant 1 Essential. 15,000.
The first thing you need to understand about Bluetality is we're not anti-cop. We're anti-bad cop. Society is anti-bad cop. Bluetality is about holding bad cops criminally accountable, getting them off the police force and behind bars where they belong. Now, Bluetality was actually started with the support of many police officers who know that there's a serious problem in every law enforcement department, but they can't speak up without retaliation and the very real possibility of losing their careers. Unfortunately for those departments guilty of running cover for their corrupt officers and those officers themselves, Bluetality doesn't work for you. We work against you. And we're going to keep coming at you like you do innocent civilians. So strap it on, Cupcake. With your badge and your gun, you're a tyrant. Without them, you ain't shit. Having said that, we need to be a little honest here. Just because the police beat your ass doesn't mean you were innocent. There's not a viewer that wouldn't support the police putting a beating on someone who stuck a gun in your wife's face and SA'd her, kidnapped your daughter and SA'd her, or unalived a loved one. If you don't agree with that, you are either lying or your wife needs to find a better husband and your daughter deserves a better dad. I don't have a problem with cops beating the hell out of carjackers, armed robbers, SAers, yada, yada, yada. I don't think that just because some shithead ran out of bullets and put his hands in the air that the fight's over. Someone should have either brought more bullets or, better yet, not used a gun at all. The police have a really effed job. And I'm not going to fault them for eliminating some menace to society who has proven time and again that your life or the lives of your innocent loved ones are for him to abuse, SA, torture, and unalive. The Dirty Harry movies weren't popular because he was giving therapy sessions to mentally ill murderers, unless therapy is what he named his bullets. The point I'm trying to make is that police kicking someone's ass is seldom the answer. But when it is the only answer. Having said that, the problem with justified police brutality is that most of them don't know when it isn't justified. They don't know where they've crossed the line. And that is what brutality is all about. It's about addressing the issue of when it is uncalled for and still used. It's about a system that covers such abuse and therefore encourages it to continue. It's about innocent people getting their lives completely ruined because of corrupt cops. Today's cops have no idea what the Constitution says. The same Constitution that they swore an oath to uphold. You walk up to any cop and say, give me 3 amendments of the Constitution. You'd be lucky to get one. They have no idea about someone's right to film and wear. They have no idea what the law really says about you having to present your ID to them. They have no idea how to de-escalate a situation, and they're scared shitless about doing the right thing, no matter how difficult it may be to do. And they think that this lack of understanding is a green light to beat the shit out of you when you question or resist them or exercise your rights. So, are there any good cops? Really, think about it. What is the definition of a good cop and what is the definition of a bad cop? Just because a cop does the right thing once in a while, does that make him a good cop the rest of the time? One of the most disturbing things about police is that they think that they're above the law and not enforcers to uphold the law. They think they can break the law anytime they want because they are the ones hired to enforce the law on you, and you can't enforce it on them. They even go as far as to just make up the law as they go, even adding additional definitions of it depending on their feelings and egos at the time they come into contact with you. Seldom, if ever, are they held accountable for breaking the very law that they swore to uphold or violating a person's civil and constitutional rights. And that is where the real problem is. But even more alarming is that when there is a bad cop, every other cop shields them from accountability. They turn a blind eye to the problem and justify it in the name of a difficult job. Any means necessary to arrest the offender, and the offender, quote unquote, deserved it. More times than not, the police themselves act in the same manner as the officers that they are running cover for. There's a code of silence in the ranks, and you don't break the thin blue line. This type of practice is not only commonplace in police departments, but it's often encouraged behavior by the leaders themselves because they also are guilty of it. Now, according to U.S. Department of Justice, the vast majority of cops report that it is not unusual, hear me, not unusual for law enforcement officials to turn a blind eye to the improper conduct of other officers. Additionally, they report that they do not always report serious abuse that they personally witnessed by fellow officers. There's a double standard and a hypocrisy when it comes to bad cops and bad civilians. Civilians are held to a much higher standard of punishment than the police officers who are sworn to uphold it. Does that make sense to anybody? Shouldn't it be the other way around? According to the Department of Justice, only 1% of police officers are held accountable for shootings, whereas 90% of the citizens are, justified or not. This hypocrisy is a major factor in the lack of public trust on law enforcement officers. Over 90% of the time that a police officer is caught in a major issue that warrants an investigation and prison time, which is what any ordinary citizen would get, the police officer is allowed to transfer, take a paid leave of absence, quit so they can be hired elsewhere, retire early, or retire with a full pension, even if it was proven that the officer lied, withheld evidence, or lied on a report, which is a crime in itself. You and I would be behind bars, and this asshole gets to retire. That has to change. So who's the good cop and who's the bad cop? The one abusing or the one not reporting it? The one beating the civilian or the one standing there watching it? The one violating the rights of the alleged offender or the internal affairs detective who, after an extensive 20-second investigation, found that, quote-unquote, we did nothing wrong. In a recent survey also reported by the Department of Justice, 84% of cops said that they have witnessed fellow officers using more force than was necessary. You know what the most common form of police misconduct is? Use of excessive force. Excessive force is going to continue to happen because anytime you have the police investigating the police, you're going to have a severely corrupt and cover our ass at all cost outcome. They will and have put the blame of their abuse on the victim. They won't think twice about ruining the life of an innocent person to cover their ass and escape the accountability and responsibility of their actions. Support the blue until it happens to you. With these kinds of statistics, why are the police confused and getting their little egos hurt when society no longer supports them as a whole and a growing trend of hatred and disdain towards police officers is growing at an alarming pace each year? Really? They can't connect the dots between excessive police brutality and a disdain from the public as a result? That's a tough one. The police are the first to claim that it's just a few bad apples that are plaguing their departments. But it's not. It's not a few bad apples. It's a bad orchard dotted with a few good apples. When I asked my cop friends who are currently police officers or retired, they admitted, quote unquote, off the record, when the problem of bad cops in any department was an epidemic. That's right. The problem of bad cops in any department is an epidemic. Yeah, there were some good police officers, but they weren't the majority. And the further you looked up the ranks, the more corruption you found. Is anyone really surprised? The vast majority of public support try to support or want to support the police. It has always been that way. The police want to help, the public want to help the police keep their communities safe. We do. We will even go so far as to even let the police violate our rights for the sake of cooperation. That's how much we want to support them. But the police, instead of being grateful for the cooperation, have found a way to weaponize it against the people. There are literally thousands of videos, tens of thousands of videos of the police violating someone's rights and then abusing the individual because they were trying to exercise their rights. If you don't let them ID you, then it's a death sentence. Literally. Let the coroner ID you now. So why is this happening? And since it is, why aren't police departments addressing the issue? Well, first of all, police want to cry that they are the victims. They are the first to point out how much they risk their lives every day, and yet they don't receive any gratitude in return. Statistically, no. Being a police officer is the 25th most deadly job in America. All right. Being a landscaper, a roofer, a farm worker, house painter, these are just a few of the occupations more dangerous than being a cop. So the next time they throw that statistic at you, go ahead and correct it on them. Remember, if you ever heard of a cop getting killed in the line of duty, there was this oh shit moment. You were like, man, a cop went down. That's sucks. It's bad. It's everything. Now the public, they don't even miss a beat with their daily routine. Comments like, yeah, they probably deserved it, and who cares? I mean, you hear it all over. I remember when citizens would line the streets when the funeral procession rolled by. Not anymore. Why? Is it because the public suddenly began hating cops, or because the police started giving the public a reason to hate them? Either way, if there's ever going to be a coming together between police officers and the general public, it's going to fall on the police departments to take action to make it happen. And we, the public, are tired of their empty words of coming together, better for the community, can't we all just get along, bullshit. Their words are meaningless. Their little toy drives and stopping to shoot a basketball, short of having any meaningful impact on the general public. What you do to the general public every day as a police officer is what speaks volumes. You are the ones with the badge, the gun, the authority, the power to abuse it. It is on the police officers to start seeing and treating people like fellow citizens than having a disdain towards them and treating them as such. Not every interaction needs to include abuse, harassment, and a by-the-book mentality. Compassion, understanding, a friendly approach, and a blind eye to the little things will go a long ways towards how the public treats the police in return. Try teaching that in the academy and addressing it in the departments. When you as a police department root out and punish the bad cops, we'll probably start seeing a few more good cops. Until then, things are only going to get worse. That's it. Like, subscribe, share, support us on Patreon. Get your Bluetality merchandise in our store. And talk to you next time. Bye.